Right, a little chat about cells and organelles. We are made up of organs, and organs are made up of tissues, and tissues are made up of cells. Now, we know that kind of from primary school, but what we're looking at now is the inside the cell itself. Within the cell, there are a multitude of organelles. An organelle is just a fancy term for a small bit inside a cell. We have to know about three different kinds of cells. The first one we have to know about is my animal cell, which can be drawn very simply. You'll know this in primary school. The other one we have to know is our plant cell, which is slightly more difficult. And again, you should know this from primary school. Simple as my animal cell has only got a membrane, and my plant cell has got a cell wall. This is for support and to act as a barrier and to give structure to the plant. The things you might not know about from primary school are the mitochondria. Mitochondria are sites for cellular respiration. They exist in both plants and animals. Also, we have our ribosomes. Our ribosomes, which I'm going to make you draw like a little R, are also in both kinds of cells. Ribosomes are how we make proteins. Proteins are what make up the human body. However, in plants, there is a special kind of organelle called a chloroplast. That chloroplast, which actually draws a box so as not to confuse it with the nucleus, is where photosynthesis occurs. Photosynthesis is how the plant turns carbon dioxide and water into glucose and oxygen. Also in my plant we have a large vacuole. It's a fluid-filled space within the cell, and I'll talk more about that in a few seconds. But it's where the plant holds water and also where it holds cell sap. Right, into a little bit more detail then. I'll start off with the nuclei. My nucleus is where my DNA is, and my DNA is filled up with, or is made up of small portions called genes. Now, genes are small sections of DNA that code for specific proteins. The other bit that they both have, my cell membrane, this is the barrier for the cell that allows things in and out depending on what they need. It surrounds the cell and it controls the movement of chemicals in and out of my cells. The mitochondria small parts of the cell that are responsible for respiration. Now, respiration is not breathing in and breathing out. Respiration is using glucose to create energy. This respiration can either be with oxygen or without oxygen. The ribosome is the site of protein synthesis. Synthesis just means making. Think about the word photosynthesis. Squeezing it on. Photosynthesis means making stuff with light. And in a plant, that happens in the chloroplast. My chloroplast is filled with chlorophyll. It's what gives my plants a green color. And my vacuole is my site of Now, my vacuole is very clever. This is what gives my plant its shape. So I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about this, but if my plant doesn't have enough water in it, then it's limp. You know when you see a plant and it's wilted? A wilted plant doesn't have full vacuoles. If my vacuole is very small, then it doesn't have enough pressure pushing outwards on my cell wall and my cell membrane to keep it full, to keep it plump and strong. So what happens is that my cell shrinks in. If it's full, if there's lots and lots of water inside, it can squeeze out against the cell membrane and the cell wall, and it can keep my plant cell under pressure. In fact, the vacuole is responsible for maintaining turgor pressure. So if there's no turgor pressure, then there is going to be a wilted plant. The last thing is my cell wall. The cell wall is responsible for support and structure. It's also a barrier for any pathogens that might want to come in. Alright, so just a very quick recap about what everything does. My cell membrane is responsible for allowing chemicals in. So I'm just going to say allowing transport of chemicals. Photosynthesis contains, or chloroplasts contain, cells contain chloroplasts which contain chlorophyll, and the chloroplasts undergo photosynthesis. My cell wall is important for support and structure. My vacuole stores water and gives the cell turgor pressure. My nucleus contains DNA and genes. My ribosome is responsible for protein synthesis. My mitochondria are responsible for respiration. And that's your plant cell and your animal cell. Now the other cell that you've not seen before will be your bacterial cell. The bacterial cells are a little bit strange. They're easy to draw though. It's a circle and then a circle. Because bacterial cells also have a cell wall. My cell wall, because these are unicellular organisms, so they need to have this cell wall in them, otherwise they're basically just bags of jelly, and they can get very easily invaded by pathogens or destroyed by other microorganisms. Some bacteria, though not all, will have a flagellum. A flagellum is for movement, and all bacteria have got a cell membrane. Now, the creepy thing about them is that their DNA isn't in a nucleus, and it's not made in that stereotypical double helix. It is just a wiggle, because the DNA is in there as a loose bunch. It's also got little circles of DNA. Now, these little circles of DNA are called plasmids, and the plasmids allow the movement of DNA between bacteria, because obviously they can't undergo sexual reproduction, so the only way they can share their genes is through these little plasmids. Right, so very quickly, my flagellum is for movement, but not all bacteria have them, and some have loads. And it's actually a pretty cool little motor in there. If you do get a chance, have a look at the flagellum motor. It's pretty amazing. My bacteria also have a cell wall, and they have two different types of DNA. They can have what we call chromosomal DNA. A chromosome is the packet that DNA usually gets tidied up into, and it can be plasmid. There's not much to them, but that's where the success is, because they are very simple organisms. They can pretty much go anywhere they like. And that's it.